Let's take you further afield now, and South Africa has welcomed the International Criminal Court's decision to issue arrest warrants for top Israeli leaders, including a Hamas official. The Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, as well as Hamas military leader Mohammed Al-Masri are among those sought. Pretoria is describing the move a step in the right direction for justice. The ICC says there are reasonable grounds to believe that Netanyahu and Gallant intentionally and knowingly deprived civilians in Gaza of humanitarian aid. It says the individuals should bear criminal responsibility for possibly using starvation as a method of warfare. Let's get some reaction now, and we talk to Dr Mireille Rebeiz. And she is the chairperson of the Middle East Studies program at Dickson College in the United States. She talks to us from Pennsylvania tonight. Dr. Perez, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time. Already you have heard the reaction from South Africa. The European Union appears to also have added its voice, and the man leading that particular institution quoted as saying the court's decision must be respected and implemented. Your thoughts around that reaction so far?
Well, first, thank you for having me. There's no doubt that this is extremely significant on many, many levels. First of all, Israel has rejected the ICC's jurisdiction in this case, and the ICC responded by reasserting its jurisdiction over the Palestinian territories. In fact, Palestine has been member of the has been party to the ICC or Rome Statute since 2015. And what's interesting about this is that the court has to decide whether Palestine is a state or not in order to accept its joining the Rome Statute. So by the simple fact that the court asserting its jurisdiction, it is asserting that Palestine's statehood, but also the Palestinian rights for self-determination. More so, it is also asserting that we are in the context of occupation. And it is reminding Israel as an occupying state of its responsibilities toward not only Gaza, but also the West Bank and East Jerusalem. And in fact, as the decision shows, there has been weaponizing of hunger, which is illegal, which is grounds for war crimes and crimes against humanities. And finally, the arrest warrant against the three individuals you mentioned, Netanyahu, Gallant, and Al-Deif, reassert that international justice is not biased. It does not discriminate based on gender, race, ethnicity, religion. It seeks accountability and justice for all civilians, whether they are Israelis in this context or Palestinians.
There's already been reaction from Israel, the Prime Minister denouncing these arrest warrants, but interesting to note that the court is saying that Israel's acceptance of the court's jurisdiction is not required. What does that mean? Are you able to explain that to us?
Well, as I pointed out, it's the court does not need Israel's approval for this, especially that Palestine is member to the Rome Statute. And I'm not surprised that Prime Minister Netanyahu rejected the ICC's arrest warrant on the basis of anti-Semitism. It is important to recognize that anti-Semitism is real in the world. However, it is very legitimate and even legal to criticize a state official, in this case, Prime Minister Netanyahu and Gallant. Furthermore, the Haaretz, which is an Israeli newspaper, has tons of articles fully documenting the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. And the scholar by the name of Amos Goldberg, who is a famous Israeli historian specialized in genocide and Holocaust studies, affirmed himself that Israel is committing a genocide in what no longer exists as Gaza. So the claim that is anti-Semitic is becoming an excuse to criticize everything and anything. And in this case, international law has spoken.
Now that an arrest warrant has been issued, I think it's worth reminding the viewers what it means, particularly for countries that are signatories to the Rome Statute. In other words, to that are signatories to the ICC. What happens if Netanyahu finds himself in those jurisdictions?
So it's very interesting because the ICC at the same time has a lot of weight, but it is limited. It is limited in a sense that it cannot proceed to trial in absentia, and it does not have its own police to arrest people. However, there are 124 states member to the Rome Statute, and in this case, Prime Minister Netanyahu, his former Minister of Defense Gallant, and in the case of Hamas, the person has been killed. But in the case of these two individuals, they are now internationally suspects, and they cannot be on the grounds of the 124 countries without being arrested. Having said that, United States is not member to the Rome Statute, and therefore there is a potential of Prime Minister Netanyahu still coming to the United States freely.
What about the other countries that are allied to Israel? And I'm thinking of the ones within the EU. And there's a particular reason I'm targeting the EU, because I think it's Vice President Joseph Borrell is the one that says the court's decision must be respected and implemented. If he were to find himself in those jurisdictions, most certainly those countries would be required to arrest him.
Absolutely. There's a requirement. He would be, and as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, the Netherlands immediately said the same thing, that if Prime Minister Netanyahu is on the Netherlands grounds, he will be arrested as well. So they are under obligation by the simple fact that they are party to the Rome Statute. Now, of course, just like Putin, there's an arrest warrant against him. I think Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to be very careful of what countries he's going to go to. And having said that, the arrest warrant is not going to hinder the allegiance or the partnership or complicity of certain countries in the war crimes and the genocide we're seeing against the Palestinian people. I'm particularly thinking of the United States. I do not think that the United States is going to stop what it's doing in terms of sending weapons or selling weapons to Israel in the context, even if we have an arrest warrant.
Let's then also try to balance this out, because it's not only the Israeli officials that are sought here. There is the Hamas military leader, and this takes us back to October 7, and that has been condemned, including by countries such as South Africa, that has taken up, though, the cause of Palestinian people. What does this mean for the Hamas group?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned this, because as international law should not be biased, as us as individuals and scholars of these issues should not be biased either. So yes, there is definite responsibility in this case of terrorism, war crimes, and so on in October 7. My understanding is that the leader has been killed, as Israel has claimed a couple of months ago that he has been killed. But this doesn't mean that the party itself, which is considered a terrorist organization, does not bear responsibility to the civilians that have been sexually assaulted and killed in the October 7 attacks. So yes, justice goes both ways, no doubt.
Let's conclude the conversation with this particular, it's almost a side show, if you like. The ICC prosecutor, Karim Khan, allegations of sexual misconduct against him. The understanding is that there may be an inquiry on the go. There were intimations that he could be intimidated, but we're not going to try and delude the viewers to think that this could be part of that. But it's important that matters such as this one are also ventilated. And so that perhaps is going to go on. But do you think that this could potentially be that which we were warned about, that there will be those that are going to try and intimidate the ICC as it seeks these arrest warrants against Netanyahu?
Well, as you said, there are two different things. Like, there's no doubt that the allegations are there, and I do not know whether they're true or not. That's for justice to say that. And there's no doubt that it's a sensitive time. And if I had my way, I would wish for Prosecutor Khan to actually step down from this position, so that the court can proceed without any shadow of doubt of what's happening in Palestine. Having said that, there's also intimidation, and this intimidation is practically coming from the global north, including like countries like the United States, which it's not party to the ICC, but it has been critical of the ICC. Ironically, the United States, there are allegations of war crimes in Afghanistan. So of course, the countries putting pressures on the ICC are countries that do not want to see the ICC succeed in its mission, because there are allegations of severe human rights violation from these countries in the global north, practiced in the global south. So I would say these allegations, these attempts to intimidation will continue, and my hope is that the ICC will continue pursuing justice, irrespective of who are the perpetrators.
Dr. Mireille Rebeiz, I want to thank you very much for your time and analysis tonight. She is the chairperson of the Middle East Studies program at Dickson College in the United States.